Yo, what is up guys? It is Bumfris, back with another episode of Entitled Parents. Today's episode is gonna be a banger, and I know you're gonna love this one. Today's like goal is gonna be just 4,000, so if we hit 4,000 likes in the next 24 hours, I'll make a video every single day for the next week. So, once you've made sure to like the video, all you need to do is sit back, relax, and get annoyed at some entitled parents. So, I'm riding on a packed bus. It might be October, but the sun hasn't got the memo yet, and it's bringing the heat. The bus is a sauna, and masks aren't helping us poor passengers one bit. On top of that, every seat is occupied by a grandma. Apparently, all grandmas have decided to take a hike today. Literally. All of them are wearing sporty clothes and look pleasantly wasted. The rest of us are entirely too close and personal with one another. On one stop, a family of 4. Parents and 2 10-year-old kids barely manages to squeeze themselves through the door. Parents can't really move, but the kids slip between people's legs to make a quick run around the bus. The kids come back whining, saying that there aren't any seats. Their parents try to shush them, but they whine louder. Mr. Entitled Dad pushes people around to get to the nearest grandma and sweetly says, "Is there a seat here for 2 kids?" The grandma looks at the kids and, unimpressed, asks him in return, "Are the kids tired?" The dad isn't expecting any defiance and answers truthfully, "They've been at the pool all day." The grandma just shrugs and the entitled dad indignantly exclaims, "Lady, this could be your grandkids." And the grandma just goes, "Young ones have more energy to stand than me." The dad looks around and sees the other grandmas giving him disapproving stares and blows up at them. He goes on a tirade. My best summary is as follows. Idiot people like you are the ones whom our country was built by, and you only know how to do country work. No wonder our country is this stupid if people as stupid as you created it. Go back to the fields if you can't follow city rules. At this point, he is full on screaming and having a tantrum. The kids look mortified and his wife kinda just stands there. Another grandma stands up and lets the kids take her place just to shut him up. Unfortunately, he doesn't, and the tirade continues on for 2 more stops until they get off. All of this anger for a few minutes ride. Funny thing is, his kids were the only people on the bus not wearing masks. You know, with a story like this, I understand that kids can be quite difficult to deal with, especially if they're a little bit tired and just want to have a rest. But the fact of the matter is, these people got onto this bus knowing full well that it was packed to the brim, could barely fit on the bus in the first place, and then had the audacity to not only ask somebody else for their seat, but to proceed to then yell at them when they don't give it to you. If this story isn't the definition of an entitled parent, well, I don't know what is. My dad bought me a car a few days ago. It's a 2012 used car that he got from a friend for about $5,000. The car I had before was also bought by my dad that he also got from a friend a few years ago that was $2,000. Sadly, the car had a lot of issues, and after both my dad and I putting over $4,000 in fixing the car, it still has a ton of issues. It doesn't run at all currently. So, I haven't had a car for months. My mum told my dad that I don't deserve a car because I'm irresponsible and that it's ridiculous that he bought me a car and that I act like a princess. I'm 20 and a full-time college student. In addition to school, I've been working since I was 13. I pay for my own gas, groceries, car insurance, clothes, and school supplies, and I've been doing so since I was 15. My dad bought my mum's car for her, and he also pays her car payments and car insurance. She only pays one bill, and my dad pays everything else. It's super frustrating having a mother who acts like I'm worthless. She even told my dad that she doesn't want my little sister spending time with me because I'm a bad influence. When in reality, she just doesn't want me around my sister because I make sure that my sister knows that my mum's behavior is unhealthy and manipulative, and not to let my mother hurt her feelings with all of the terrible things that she does. To me, the worst thing about this, or at least the thing that I would struggle with the most in a situation like this, is that she has 2 parents who are on completely different wavelengths, whereas she has one parent who is willing to go out of their way to do everything that they can to make sure that she's successful in life, and then she's got another one, being the mother, who seemingly goes out of the way to make sure that her life is as difficult as possible. It's fantastic on one hand that she does have the support from at least one of her parents, but I can't imagine how awful it would be having that contradicting information and not having it on both sides. Being at boarding school with my sister and no adults is hard. The worst part is the fact that my dad expects me to babysit my younger sister. He doesn't seem to realize that I have my own life, my own interests, and that I really don't have that much free time outside of sports and school. He really expects me to watch my sister 24/7 and to constantly provide for her. If my sister was an intelligent, self-reliant, responsible kid, this wouldn't be a problem. Unfortunately though, she is not. So all the responsibility for her falls to me. The worst part about all of this is the fact that if my sister does something stupid that I have nothing to do with, guess who gets blamed? Me. And then I'm the one who has to rectify her mistakes no matter what the cost for me is. Last year, she got ditched in the town outside of our school. I had to get an Uber, go out there and pick her up. This was after I warned her many times to stay away from the person who ditched her in town. This took an hour out of my night right before I had a big test for one of my hardest classes, and I was peed off to say the least. She didn't listen to me or even seem to care about what had happened. Needless to say, stuff like all of this happened last year, and I had to bail her out of so many stupid situations that she got herself into for no good reason. The final straw happened this year. My sister forgot her book bag with her $2,000 computer in it in the gym during the first week of school. You think she'd learn from the mistake, but no. She did the exact same thing a week later, but this time she left her stuff in one of her friend's cars. And of course, my dad immediately expected me to hand over my computer because she wasn't responsible with hers. I was really peed off about all of this because my little sister likes to go through my messages on my computer, and I was worried that she would see my Reddit posts and figure out that I was bi. I tried to point out to my dad that she needed to learn responsibility from constantly making the same mistakes, but he didn't care and told me to hand over my computer. This has all been building up to what happened today. After the whole deal with the computer, I was really sick of being a babysitter, and there was tension building between my sister and I. Yesterday, I told my dad about something that happened when my sister got mad at me for talking about our cat. He then decided that we needed to stop bickering like a couple of old ladies, and he threatened to sell my car unless we started spending more conflict-free time together. I don't have much of a problem with this, but my sister sure does. She is refusing to follow my dad's new rules, and my dad doesn't care about it. He says that if we both don't do it, we'll both be in trouble. And I just feel like it's incredibly unfair that I'm getting punished and could potentially lose my car for something that my sister is doing. In case you couldn't tell, I'm very upset about all of this and considering running away. I just don't see much point in sticking around anymore because nobody seems to treat me like anything but a glorified babysitter. If I can't control my own life with my family, I'd much rather leave and take control of myself. I'm super sick of not being treated like my own person and like my life revolves around my sister. I don't really know how old the OP is in this story, but if they're driving and working and whatever else and are in a position to get themselves out of there, I honestly could not think of a better idea. It sounds like the parents are so lazy that they don't want to do their own job and parent their own child, so what they're doing is palming off that responsibility to their other child rather than just looking after their own kid. If you can get out of there, do so, build a bit of independence and show them that you don't need them to survive. I graduated high school back in 2010, so I'll try to remember the best I can. I live in Texas, but lived across the border to Mexico because, to be honest, it's way cheaper to live over there when you're making money in the US. My high school graduation was in the middle of June, which is the hottest days of the year. Imagine having to dress nicely for graduation to be done in the middle of a football field on a scorching summer day. I had told my mum about this and she still wanted to bring my now 4-year-old little brother to the graduation. Since I was busy with all of this, I told her to invite our family to this, meaning my uncles, aunts, and especially my grandparents. She said that she did, but since I was busy with the whole graduation and enrolling into colleges, I believed her. The day comes and she hadn't told a soul about my graduation. She just told me that everyone was busy and to deal with it later. Since graduation was going to start in a few minutes, I just had to suck it up. It turns out that she didn't tell anyone because she deemed this to be our family matter. After almost 3 hours in the heat, the graduation ended and my mother was nowhere to be seen. My friends were inviting me to their graduation parties and I wanted to get my mum's permission for this, so I called her. I say to her, "Hey mum, where are you?" And she says, "Oh, I went to go get the car early so we could avoid traffic." I'm here thinking that this is perfect, so I can tell her that I'll go hang out with my friends at a graduation party so she can go back. Her response is, "No, you can't. We need to get back home since they are saying that there's people fighting each other and it can get ugly and we need to get home and be safe." I told my friends about this and sadly, I did not go to any graduation parties. When I got in the car, I noticed that there's Chick-fil-A in there and I'm confused as to why that's there since we didn't get any on the way to my graduation. My entitled mum says to me, "Your brother was getting fussy because of the heat and he got hungry, so I took him to Chick-fil-A." I was mad, but maybe she went after they called my name since they were going in alphabetical order and I was one of the first ones they called, and that way she could get a picture of me being handed my diploma, and then she said something that to this day I hate for it. My entitled mum says, "We left 20 minutes after it started." And I say, "WTF, did you at least bring me anything to eat?" And she says, No. Here's some leftover chicken tenders from your brother. I assumed that she was going to take me to a nice restaurant and I would meet my other family there. Nope. We went straight home and I didn't even get dinner. I felt so ashamed and unappreciated that I just went to my room and closed my door, turned off the lights and cried myself to sleep. Yeah, I don't hate to admit it, I was an 18-year-old male that cried himself to sleep because his entitled mum made him feel like his life was not worth anything in her book or anyone else in particular. For the record, my dad used to work in Ohio at that time of year, and unfortunately, that is also the busiest and he couldn't come to my graduation. When I told him what my mum did, he was upset so much that they were nearly to the point of divorce, but luckily they didn't. My dad is very level-headed, unlike my mum. The deeper I got into this story, the worse I felt for this kid because what this kid's mum did to him is absolutely awful. Graduation for a lot of kids is a massive achievement. Being able to get through their school life and move into adulthood isn't a small deal for anyone. The memories that were created on this day are memories that this person has clearly never forgotten and probably won't ever forget. His entitled mum completely ruined his graduation day, and that's not something that he'll ever get back. I hope OP's now off on his own doing great things and has managed to maintain a really good relationship with his dad because from what he's saying, his dad's far from entitled. So I was boarding a flight to Las Vegas, and for some background, I broke up with a guy a few weeks prior who kept texting me while I remained silent. He took it a step too far that morning, and I told him that he was making me uncomfortable and needed to stop texting. Then he started threatening me, so I blocked him. So I was a bit stressed when I was getting on the plane. As I'm boarding, I notice a couple settling in the row behind me with 2 babies under the age of 2. I eye them a bit, but they didn't say anything. I never say anything and I just brace for the inevitable. Also, an elderly gentleman settled into the seat next to me and gave me a bit of a creeper vibe, although I don't really recall why. Super stress me, text my child-free friend to complain about my flight circumstances. We frequently privately decompress about flights with babies and children on them. The flight is loaded, people are getting ready, and the creeper guy actually had a wife on the flight who was seated elsewhere and had to ask a stewardess about changing seats. Not a creeper, just an awkward old man. So, a few minutes later, a stewardess comes up to our row and looks directly at me and asks me, "Ma'am, are there any problems that I can resolve for you today? If there are going to be any issues, I want to handle them on the ground." I was completely confused. Again, I never said anything to anyone. The guy next to me started saying that he was interested in sitting next to his wife, but the stewardess just kept staring at me and asking if there was anything she needed to resolve. So, the very helpful parents behind me started talking to her very loudly about how I didn't want to be seated next to 2 screaming babies and a dirty old man. And then loudly apologizes to the man that he had to endure my company, yelling that if I didn't want to be seated next to screaming babies, I should have paid for a first-class ticket. I completely froze. They had been reading my private text messages over my shoulder. All I could think of in that moment was of the viral video of that drunk woman throwing a fit about being seated next to a kid. I knew if I fought back in any way, I'd be turned into a villain. So, as they continue to talk loudly, they also announced to the section that if you don't want your private text read, you shouldn't be texting in public. At that point, the stewardess realized what was happening fully and rolled her eyes and walked off. The poor embarrassed gentleman next to me was reseated next to his wife. I remained completely silent throughout this whole thing and then throughout the whole flight. Man, the audacity of some people and thinking that it's okay just to read other people's private text messages or get involved in other people's business is just ridiculous. In a situation like this, how easy would it have been for her to just keep her kids quiet for the duration of the flight rather than trying to make a big deal out of it and just going on to prove the OP's point? I can't imagine what these kids have in store for them when they finally get their own phones and start texting because this mum is going to be all over them and they're going to have no privacy whatsoever. Technically not a parent yet, but this pregnant woman came in today into a cafe where my friend works. It's a small, hip cafe corner, I mind you, and they don't have a lot of seats. The first thing she did was scream at the staff because only the high tables are left. She yells saying, "I need to sit on low tables because I'm pregnant. How do you expect me to sit on a high table?" Excuse me? First of all, how did you want them to know that your pregnant self was coming in today? And even more so, right at this exact moment. They didn't even offer you to sit there, you just came in and started yelling. The staff kindly told her that she'd just need to wait a little longer for a low table, okay? Then she placed an order being a lemonade. The staff told her that they were out of lemonade and would she care for some iced tea instead. It was as if someone pulled up on her. She got triggered at the poor cashier and pointed at her belly saying, "Do I look like I can drink tea? Why do you even open at this hour when things are sold out in the afternoon?" The poor cashier actually couldn't even look at her belly because the counter was so high. Also, how would he know that you couldn't drink tea? And to know that these kind of people are the ones breeding is just too much. Like the OP said at the start of the story, this lady's probably not even a parent yet, and that is what makes this more frightening than ever. She's got the entitled complex down packed before she's even had a kid, and I cannot imagine what's to come when she eventually has this kid. Is it sad to know that I'm worried for this kid's future and he hasn't even been born yet? Unfortunately, I guess that's what you get when you've got an entitled parent. Alright everyone, that is that for today's episode of Entitled Parents. I just want to start off by saying thank you so much for watching and I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did enjoy the video as much as I enjoyed making it, don't forget to smash that like button, and just a reminder that if we hit 5,000 likes in the next 24 hours, I'll be uploading a video every day for the next 2 weeks. I'm gonna keep this outro nice and short. I do just want to say though, if you are new around here, don't forget to smash that subscribe button. I love each and every single one of you, and I'll be doing something very special for you guys very soon. What you are going to see on your screen right now are 2 of my awesome videos, one of which I would highly suggest you click on and go down that rabbit hole of entitled parents. Otherwise though, I just want to say again, thank you so much for watching. I hope you're all having a fantastic day, and I hope to see you guys tomorrow for another episode of Entitled Parents. Bye.